Hello again, and it's time for another project. Today we're going to use the scroll saw and the router to cut out and route out this long sword, we'll call it. It's actually only 30 inches long, but that'll be plenty for what we need. And I actually only made it 30 inches because the piece of wood was already cut to 30 inches. Now the idea is we will cut out the saw itself, and then we'll route out sections of the blade and the handle up at the top there, just to give us a bit of a depth to it. And also, as we've got our template on there, instead of just a boring sword, we're also going to incorporate the outline of a snake there, and that will just sit on top, and hopefully it will either look like the blade's gone through the centre of the snake or the snake's climbing up there. Originally I was going to have it going around the back, coming out, going around the back, but for the thickness of the wood, which I'm just going to say just slightly over half an inch, we just don't have enough wood to play with. So on this one, so I'm just going to sit on the blade like so, or we'll see what it looks like when we've actually cut it all out. It might look like it's piercing through the centre. As always, for me, we've got our template there. I've actually done it on tracing paper. You can actually search online for sword outlines and snake outlines, and I actually just placed the tracing paper straight onto the screen and drew around it, shall I say. And then I decided what length I wanted to. I've just joined these up together. If you wanted a smaller sword, you can go up to there. If you wanted a longer one, you can just keep adding them. So we place that on there with painter's tape, good old carbon paper for me. Pop that underneath. If you just draw over the top, and that transfers your image, no problem. Once I did the saw itself, I simply came along with my snake outline, placed the carbon on, worked out where I want it, should I say, stuck that down like so, pop the carbon underneath, and just drawn around it exactly the same. That way you can also use those images again and again should you want to. Nice fresh carbon paper, not something like this. This has been on every one of my videos. That is that dry, you wouldn't even be able to use that. So here's our template for today. On rough old fencing wood, I take 10 minutes, just give it a nice sanding down, and it comes up really nice. For me personally, good old belt sander, skim that both sides, as you can see from there. And when you do your templates, look out for any knots. I've had to twist and turn this so we had no knots in the way. And when I actually finish drawing it out, we've got a little knot on the end of the nose here, but that's not going to affect us by the time we cut around it. Now for cutting wise, spiral blades for me. Spirals will cut in any direction. They're certainly not for everybody, and you'll either love or hate them, but the teeth are spiraled. So we can start there, cut round that without moving the wood once, down the bottom, feed it round and go round again. The other two blades, just quickly, are your pin blade. They come on your more basic saws, and you can just see from that they do have a pin at both ends. And they just hook into a little device like so, or a pinless blade. They're for your more professionals, I would say. If you are going to purchase a scroll saw, try and get one that takes pinless blades. Unfortunately, my old drapper that I use doesn't take pinless blades, so I have to use these adapter clamps, and they're a little bit useful. Nuisance is a word sometimes. When you have to Allen key, undo it, put your blade in, tighten it up, then hook that up top and bottom, take it off, undo it all, same again. And so they can be a bit of a nightmare sometimes, but they do work, and it certainly does the job I want. Now the idea for me today, we've got some sections here that we want to cut out. There's obviously one there, one there, one there. So we want to cut those three inner cuts out, so we will drill pilot holes to those. Basically we're just going to drill an hole so we can feed the blade through, cut that section out, and then we'll transfer it onto the next one and the next one there like so. And then for me personally, because the idea today is we're going to route out, if I can just move those blades out of the way, we are going to route out the full blade itself just to lower it down so the snake stands up a bit higher, and the same with the handle. So I can just squeeze it in now. I do apologise for the filming today, it's not going to be the best. There's a reason why I do small projects, because I can fit them in. So we want to lower all this, that section there, that section there, that section, that section, that section, and all the way down there. So we're going to route those sections out leaving these raised up, the end piece here and that piece here, and then the snake itself. And then we'll come in with a Dremel and round it off and put a bit of speckling effect on there, as I call it. Just dab, 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 and hopefully it'll look somewhere in there. And then once we paint the blade itself a nice silver, maybe a bit of gold round here and a gold end, it'll look somewhere like a project. Right, the idea for me is I'm going to cut this all out on a scroll saw first, just leaving a couple of sections intact. Maybe one down here, you can see that. We might leave a little pin there just to keep it attached to the base, and maybe one up here like so. That way we can come in with a router and we can route all this out, and we'll have no issues with these lines because we've already cut them out with a scroll saw. So when you come with the router, we can just route straight over the top of there and we've got no concerns. Whereas if you route it all out first and then you've got to come in with a saw and cut it out, this is obviously going to be raised higher than this, and I just find it a bit awkward to cut on a line that's at two different levels. So we will cut it all out first, and then once we've done all our routing sections, we'll come back and basically just take off these little nicks here, one there, and there might be one in the middle here, just to keep it all together. You'll see as we progress. Right, we'll cut this out first, do all our scroll saw work, and then when we come to the router, we'll explain about the router things. So let's cut this all out first now with our Pegas number 5 spiral blade. Okay, let's get going. Right, so we've drilled all our pilot holes, remember, and there's one of our little sections here that we're going to leave in, just keep it intact. That just gives more room for the router itself to run on. So we fed it through the pilot hole there, we took the tension up. You want a nice ping ping sound, you can hear there. And with a spiral blade and the all normal straight blades, they want to be feel smooth on the way down and rough on the way up. So I'll cut a few of these out and we'll speed things up again, and then we'll get down to the router side of thing. Okay, so let's start cutting this one out. So we've made it all the way round with that Pegas number 5 spiral blade. We've actually cut this saw out and round the snake, because we've left our little tabs in. There was one there, I think there's 2 up here and 2 down the bottom. It's still attached to the surrounding wood. And if you turn it over, hopefully you can just about see from there. Now this is just the way I do things. All this is, it allows you, when we come in for the router, remember we're going to have to route out all this blade to lower this down. Now personally myself, you might just get away with getting your router in there because you can rest on either side of the snake and you could rest on here. But when you come down here, you would have no wood on if you've already cut it all out. So we leave it intact just those little pins there. You can just see, I call them pins, little connection bits, and that just gives you more of a surface for your router to run on. So when we come in with a router to route out the blade, we can use up all the wood available to us to keep it nice and level. And obviously once we've done all the routing out to the depth that we're happy with, we can simply come back in with the scroll saw and just nick it off there, two at the top and those two there, and then this will basically come away from the surround. Now for routing out areas, remember these darker sections, want to lower it down. I've had a little bit of a play down here, you might just see that, with the straight flush bits. This is a bit different for me. Normally I would come in with a little CNC bit and end milling bits, but it's not that detailed kind of project. Hopefully we'll make it more when we come in with the Dremel for the shaping and stuff. But I did order myself some straight flush bits. They come in different sizes like so. Some right beauties, big chunky things like that. Can get the lid off. Big chunky things like that. They're quite aggressive, so you've got to be a bit careful, and I certainly wouldn't use them on anything too delicate. But we're going to go for this double bladed one. There'll be a size on it somewhere. But anyway, I've tried it once and it works fine. And you can see from that, we've gone straight in there with it. And they are called straight flush bits because they leave a straight edge. And we're going to use this to remove these shaded out areas. We'll start off at 3mm, see what it looks like. Remember, we've only got ½ inch to play with. And if so, we can go over it again and just lower it down a bit more. And hopefully that will just give us the illusion of the snake there with the blade being further down. Okay, so we'll pop this in. There's no adapter collet. These do have a 1/4 inch shaft on them, so they will just fit your router straight away. So we'll pop that in the router there, as you can see, and basically just start lowering all these shaded areas by roughly 3mm. We can always add a little bit more or go a little bit deeper afterwards. Let's do that next. Right, we've gone over the blade itself with that straight flush bit, and hopefully you can see from there, just lowered it down, we'll say roughly by 3mm, so we can see the snake. Remember, we won't see these pencil lines once we've sanded over that, put a bit of speckling effect on, and obviously painted it the right colour, or near as. Now for me personally, it's just not low enough. I'm going to skim over this again, just by a couple of mil. The handle itself, that's near enough what we want. We will round it off slightly. And remember, this is a wall mounting piece, or in my case, it's going to be for the back gate. So we've got no need to do anything with the back piece. So all the front is only the bit we're going to see, if that makes sense. So I'll generally just skim over this again, just to lower it down a little bit. Then when we come back, we can remove the little tabs on the side there. They did their job by holding that all in place nicely. And then we can get the Dremel out with some sanding drums and basically start giving it a bit of shape. I'll just skim over this first off camera. So I've been over this a second time, just another mil or so, and personally myself, it just lowers it down enough so that snake stands out a lot better. We left the handle alone. I'm quite happy with 3 mil on that. Give it more chunkiness to the handle, but we lowered the blade down by, let's say, 4 to 5 mil, and it just gives a bit more to play with when it comes to rounding off and doing a bit of shape. Remember, we're not going to get the perfect shape of a snake because we've only got half an inch of wood to play with, but it'll be enough to make a nice little project when it's all painted and stuck on the gate there. So now just literally just back on the scroll saw to move our little lips, remember, little tabs, two there, there's one there just holding it all together, and I believe there's two at the top there, and then we release it from the surround, and then hopefully we can start sanding down and just adding a bit more to it. Okay, let's cut it out quickly. So we removed those little tabs that were holding it all together, so that popped out no problem, and you can see from that there's our general shape that we're going for today. We can just about fit it all in. Now remember, we're only focusing on the front. You can actually turn that round and route out these sections exactly the same way with the handle and in between the blades and all the rest of it, so you'd have the same image on both sides. No problem whatsoever. You've definitely got enough wood thickness there to play with, so really exactly the same on this side and bring it all together. But remember, this is going to sit on the gate, so we have no need to work on the back apart from a general tidy up. So we're going to give it a quick sanding down just to round off these edges, get rid of these pencil lines here. Quick going over with a mouse sander, nothing fantastic. And then once that's all nicely tidied up, we'll use some sanding drums, just worn out things. I'll get some new drums on there. That's probably gone as that one. So we'll get some nice new papers on there just to shape it all around. And once I've done all the snake itself, I'll use one of these little engraving bits. These are just cheap eBay specials. It's got a round nose on it, a round edge should I say. And I will just basically just dab this snake to give it some kind of texture. I'll certainly have no carver and I won't be able to do the full snake effect. And we'll see if we can maybe squeeze some eyes in there if possible. Let's tidy it all up first, and then we'll have a rethink and decide what we're going to do. Okay, that's enough general tidying up and shaping for me. Remember, we came over it with a good old little mouse sander there, and then we came in with the drums on the Dremel itself just to give a bit of a shaping and to just take those edges off. And then obviously we went down the side of the blade. Once we sanded it all down, one of these little engraving bits, eBay or Amazon, just a round ball, nothing fantastic, and it's just a simple case of tap 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 on there for me. And that gives you a nice speckling effect, just so it's not so smooth as. And we've also done these side bits here on both sides just to finish it off nicely. So the back piece, remember, we have no concerns about that. We're not going to see that once it's fastened to the gate. And there's our main front as it is. Now this isn't one of those carvings where you want to spend a lot of time. You could have routed out fancy designs in there and something on the end if you wanted to. I'm just trying to keep it just plain and simple today. So now, as far as the scroller, router and sanding down everything, that's all done with now. So painting next. Painting for me, bit old teak for the handle up there. We've got some little gold paint for the guard and the ball section on the end. Bit of green for the snake there. We'll lighten that up and do something with that as we go along. We might pop a bit of red in those eyes there. And I've managed to find a bit of silver paint. Don't know how old that is, to be honest. I've looked inside and there's just enough to do our little project hopefully. I want to mention the eyes. I don't know if you can see that, but he has got some eyes in there. Now we had the one knot, but we managed to make that into a nostril either side. So we got lucky with that. And there's his little eyes if you can see them. Not to worry. There we go. We'll come back when it's all painted anyway. And we'll spray on a bit of varnish. And we'll pop it on the gate with the rest of them. Right, that's it. This little project is finished. In the end, we found some gold paint. These are all old paints, really. I'm surprised there was any in them. So we used the gold there for the guard and the ball section on the end there. Then we went in with a bit of dark teak. That was just for the handle. The worst paint was the silver paint. I don't know how old that is, but we managed to do it. But I think I'm ready for some fresh paint. And then the green there, good old painter's touch. And then we lightened it up for the underbelly section. A bit of yellow in the eyes. And good old varnish just to finish it off. Just give it a little bit of a shine. It's not so much for protection. You want some decent stuff for that, to be honest. But for my little projects, it works fine. And you can see from that, it's just enough to give it a nice shine on the snake there. We've got him a face going down of some description. He's got some little eyes in there, you can just see. I'll pop some yellow in there. And then a Sharpie black pen just to make the little dabs there. And for some reason on this one, I did paint the back end. Just to show you, if you'd routed out the front of the piece and routed out the back of the section, what you could achieve there, I suppose. I don't know really. I don't know why I did it, but we've done it. And there's our stain there. And we sprayed it all, the full piece. And that is just enough to say we've made a go at things. And that's it. So we cut it out with a Pegas number 5 spiral blade. I prefer the spiral blades. If you are going to treat yourself to a nice scroll saw, try and get one that takes pinless blades, or you'll have to use those kind of little adapter things here. And then for lowering the sword itself, the blade and the handle, straight flush bit there. I will put description links to all these little bits I use today. And for general shaping round, just take that edge off there. And a bit more work with old sanding drums here. And a little Dremel, or should I say an engraving bit, just a round ball bit like so. And that was used to dab on the effect. And it's worked out fine. Remember, we did all the sides. There's our slight different coloration there underneath. You want to get you? No, it's not, is he? There he is. And then we did the side bits and inside there as well. Remember all those little bits in there. And that's it. This little project is finished. Remember, this is just rough fencing wood, cheap fencing wood, but you will get a nice little project out of it. This is just to sit in my garden, put on the front gate there, with a couple of skull heads that I made on my previous video, hopefully on either side. And that's it. This little project is finished. Thank you very much for watching.